With me today, I have a pioneering figure in the Malaysian legal system, Miss Kokila Vaani. She is the first female chairperson of Selangor Bar and is currently serves as the head of civil litigation at Kumar Chambers in Petaling Jaya. In that light, we have spoken about children. How does the court decide on distribution of assets?
That's an interesting one. All right, I think court decides in basically putting assets into three categories: matrimonial assets, non-matrimonial assets, and assets acquired before the wedding.
Okay.
All right. So let me just quickly explain what these three things are. The matrimonial assets is the properties that both the parties, the husband and wife, acquired while they were getting married, or acquired the property when they got married, or worked towards getting the property during their marriage.
Right.
So that becomes all for the purposes of the use during marriage. That's matrimonial property, usually in the form of house, usually in the form of properties, or like properties, or like something that you buy in the course of your wedding. All right. Now then we go to non-matrimonial assets. Things like you actually got it for your personal use. It could be a car, it could be it could be a golf club, it could be something that you got that you need to use for your personal use.
Art pieces, there's a lot of people invest in those kind of things.
Jewelry,
right.
I think that's very, very prominent in the Indian community. The jewelries is a big thing, especially the sacred chain when they wear at the wedding. That has been a dispute for a lot of cases, because they feel, a lot of people say, look, the marriage was this chain is it's a symbol of marriage. Now, upon marriage being failing, you will not use it anymore. Let's be real about it.
Right.
But then the argument was that the lady or the wife may argue, saying that, but this is a property acquired for me as a gift of marriage.
Right.
Therefore, I will still keep it. So when this happened in court, one of it, we decided what we're going to do is we decided to sell the tali and then give and split the money. So both parties can use it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you had matrimonial, non-matrimonial?
Yeah, non-matrimonial, and then you have properties acquired before the wedding. This could be anything. You could have acquired a house before your marriage, and then now that's where this last two becomes tricky, because it can always become it can be argued that it can become your matrimonial assets. I'll tell you how. All right. So now let's just go to a car. Okay. So I bought this car for my use, but during our marriage. So now, at the divorce, you can claim and say, look, every day I was driving this car, even though it was his car, or I was at least picked up and dropped off by him. Now I want a share of the car. All right? So it's non-matrimonial assets, but then you may have a claim on it. Now let me quickly go on to the properties acquired before marriage instances. Now I buy a house, and we were living there together, and this was known as our matrimonial home. All right, but you will argue and say, no, Koki, you can't have it because I bought it before the marriage. But yes, we were living this, and this was our matrimonial home. But I will argue and say, look, yes, but however, do you realize that this part of the renovation was done by me? So I have a claim on this property because the renovation was done by me, or substantially we both joined towards this particular asset, joint efforts by both parties. Therefore, it now becomes a matrimonial asset. So you can argue it. People may not. Of course, another thing that a lot of people ask me is, of course, the EPF as well. Hey, can I have a claim on my husband's EPF or my wife's EPF? Of course, the answer is no, because it's your money acquired.
Right.
EPF is very, very strict. You can't even have a claim if you are caught for bankruptcy. That money still cannot be taken for that. But however, if I had substantially contributed to your EPF by helping you to work, if it's a business, then maybe. But of course, generally EPF is a no thing.
Okay. So much.
I see, yeah.
So
see.
much I didn't know, you know.
I hope I'm trying to make it as simple, you know,
Yes.
using as simple examples, because I think people need to know all
Correct.
this. It is quite complex, because the first thing people come and say is, oh, is it always a 50-50?
Right.
No, it's not always a 50-50.
Right.
But it is better to be a 50-50 if you can afford it, if both parties can afford it.
And I think every case is different.
Yes,
You know, it's on a
yeah.
case-to-case
Yeah,
basis, and a
very
lot of
much
people
so.
don't share what really happens, or you know, circumstances of each couple is also different. So a lot of people are not aware that they can actually categorize certain things. Like when I ask you
Yeah.
assets, is all I was expecting is, oh yes, this is divided by this, you
Yeah.
know that. But now you're saying there's matrimonial, non-matrimonial, and then those acquired before marriage. And then the question of an example you're saying is, I did renovation for that house.
I
you
do
know,
hope people don't all start
No, no.
arguing today, you know, after watching this, right, Mrs. Sandhya?
But I think it's just general information that
Yeah.
everybody needs to know. They have an avenue, they have an understanding,
Yeah.
and for any party, may it be the husband or the wife, for them to have clarity when they are in such emotional or you know mental stress when it comes to the relationship, like have clarity. Oh, this is certain options. This is what I can do. And when they go for mediation, they can say, okay, this is what I have, this is what I'm looking out for, this is the kids, this is the assets. Being informed has its benefits,
Yes.
you know, instead of going in blind.
Yeah, no, because I think, like I said, you know, everybody keeps saying that, oh, you know, it's a matrimonial property means it's definitely a 50-50.
Right.
So what they do is usually they will sell and then divide the 50-50.
Right.
Divide the proceeds of the sale to 50-50. But there are many times I've seen that the property, I mean, a lot of people will come and tell me, actually it's bought by my dad. You know, it is a gift as a gift of a wedding. I don't want to use the word dowry, but you know, it's it's a dowry, or it could be a lot of things. You know, and then also many people also feel that, you know, but hey, this house was not in a livable, or was not fit for occupancy. That means we couldn't live in this house if I did not renovate, and that was my money. So how can you say that this is all yours when I have substantially contributed? It was a joint effort. You got a space, but I actually made sure this was a home, for instance.
Right.
So yeah.
Okay, very good. Just to wrap it up, I know, and it's huge in some Western countries, but I know it's illegal here.
Yeah.
What's your take on prenup?
Well, recently, prenup is still illegal in Malaysia, and I think I don't know whether, like you mentioned, I mean, whether it has become a necessity in today's society. Back then, many people view prenup as well, you know, there is no feeling because of you know, weddings or marriages are meant, it's made in heaven, and you should not attach conditions to it. But in today's world, I think more importantly, you need to safeguard yourself.
Right.
You know, when I mean safeguard yourself, means your properties, and because you would have also taken time to build this. And the last thing, I'm getting a divorce and then realizing that you also lost your money, it's not a good place to be. Therefore, I think maybe prenups, like this recent case in the KL court, I think about a few months ago, was that a postnup was allowed, you know. So it's not prenup. So this contract was entered as a postnup. That is postnuptials. When both parties are husband and wife, and then we decide, hey, let's draw up an agreement. So that's what happened, where with both parties consent. You know, it was not like one party blindly entered into it. Of course, I think so it seemed like a postnup, but what it was actually for me, I think it was a contract that the court said this is a valid contract. So so now I'm not saying that do enter into postnups, you know, or enter into contracts after your wedding as opposed to pre, you know. But I think at the end of the day, it's always good to talk first before your swan, and maybe if you do have to draw up certain agreements by putting certain people's name or transferring it to certain people, it's good to do it as fast as possible before marriage or even after marriage. That is fine. And I think you may want to do this to safeguard your assets. Most of it sometimes is not our assets. It may be a family hereditary assets that we need to take care. It may not be just for us, but it may be temporarily given for us to take care. And then when things do not work out in a marriage, naturally it will have to go back to the original owner. So we need to take care of people's stakeholdings in a certain assets that may be at that point ours. We are just talking about assets, but then in many instances there are companies involved, shares involved. And it's so difficult because they'll be like, this, I'm a director of this company, now I want to pull out my shares, or you have to then eventually sell back the shares to the particular person who wants the particular company to still run the company. So it's that kind of thing. I personally feel, like I said, prenups or even postnups, all that is not legal. But I think you must always, I think, have a chat to speak about what you have and what you will not be part of the marriage, and take steps legally to make sure that this property is not being given away in a marriage circumstances.
Okay.
I see you being really jaded. I hope it's not me.
I think it's
because I don't want your husband, Mr. Dinesh, to call me today, or Miss Sumi to tell me Kokila.
I think what is for me is, in this time and age, as much as we've really grown as a society, divorce is still a taboo subject.
Yes.
People still saying, "What? You're a divorcee?" I mean, like. So a lot of people, when they're in such unhappy marriages and they feel that for their own well-being and the well-being of their kids, separation may be the thing to go through, or divorce, they still don't want to take that first step, only because it's still taboo, or the fact that what I've asked you and you've shared with us, they are not aware of this information.
Definitely.
So this has given us a lot of clarity, it gives us more information, and I thank you for that. And just to wrap up, would you be able to just give an advice, or just to summarize what you've shared with us, something that the viewers can take away coming from you?
I think to everyone, I know a lot of divorces, like just taking the last part of what Mrs. Sandhya just said, I think many people are afraid to make that step. I am not, I believe in the institution of marriage, but however, I also believe that the children, we as parents would have to shape the children's future, and you being unhappy will eventually pass on the toxicity to your children, and we do not want that to happen to our loved ones ever. So like I said, there are please do not think that divorce will take you away from your assets, because there's always a way to do it. So consult people that you know, and if money is an issue, like I said, you can go to many NGOs out there, do it. Also the legal aid clinics, do it. Get a view of what it is first. Do not rush into it. Of course, there is also, I think for single petition, there's a mandatory, you must go for counselling by the government for 3 times. Joint petition, there's no need to go for counselling, but there's a mandatory counselling by the government. It's called the Reconciliation Tribunal, Jabatan Pendamai, which you have to go, and you get the certificate, only then you can file a single petition. This, I think, are government efforts to try to tell you, keep divorce as the last option. But if you're already viewing it as an option, and if you're still unsure, like I said, if it's children that you're worried about, do go for the custody application first. That means take care of your children, make sure that you have sorted out the arrangement of your children, and then you can think about divorce if that's not what you're rushing for. I also understand the stigma, because especially for ladies, that being divorced may actually invite unwanted attention, or may be viewed that you are not a serious person in marriage. I would say that maybe back then, but I think sometimes it's easier to actually handle your problems on your own, and sometimes you just don't need things that pull you down. But having said that, always try to mediate first. You may be surprised with the results, but like I said, there are many other ways than just going straight, jumping in and diving into divorce. So look into that options.
Awesome. Comment section below. We'll try to address it in our next episode.